And welcome back to the Sage's Nook podcast. We are here for episode 4. My name is Tom. This is my brother Mitch. We are both longtime DMs here to yap about anything and everything D&D.
Let's go!
And honestly, that's all the intro you need right now. So let's get into it. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Hope you watched the previous episode. Episode 3 came out the morning after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So hopefully you listened to it with a belly full of turkey and a belly full of beer.
Yeah, if you didn't listen to that shit, go fucking listen to it. I'll know.
Yeah.
I will know.
But we both got beers right now. It's the middle of the week. So we're doing anything we can to get through it. But you guys didn't come here to listen to us yap about beer. You came here to listen to us yap about D&D. So.
Hell yeah.
Mitch, any news on the D&D front?
Oh, yes. Great news. Our party is still alive and thriving in the My Little Pony campaign. I am playing a pony bard. I have to use a magical flute that floats because I can't actually hold it with my hooves. So we actually have to LARP it as well while we're playing. So I am dressed up as a My Little Pony while we're playing the game. It's pretty... it's going good.
Did you get out of My Little Pony Avernus yet?
No, we're actually, I think we're making our way towards Harkin? He's got Vecna's hand.
Archon the Cruel.
Yeah, Archon the Cruel. Yeah, we're making our way to him. We killed that Minotaur guy, so we'll get there eventually.
Is he in Descent into Avernus?
Yeah.
That's like one of the only modules I've never read.
Yeah, it's his character. He kind of like led the development of it. So like it's like the canon lore of what happened in the Critical Role game. That's why he has the hand of Vecna or whatever. I don't even know if that module is canon because I feel like he definitely doesn't have the hand of Vecna in the lore. I'm pretty sure it's Descend to Avernus that he's in. And then Zariel, I think, is the main antagonist.
Yeah, Zariel, however you want to call it. I don't have her mini, but I do have her. I have her stat block. I'm pretty sure I own Descent into Avernus, the book, online, but I don't have it in person.
You got it for the content, right?
I just get them. I get it all for the monsters and the content and the magic items. Yeah, Joe Manganiello's character, Archon the Cruel, he's really cool. They actually made Descent into Avernus when they did because Baldur's Gate was slotted to come out a long time before it actually did, and then it got delayed like
it was
multiple
supposed
times,
to come
right?
out, I think 2018 or 2019, and it was announced in 2017, I think.
Yeah, so they made that module to like build hype for Baldur's Gate, even though I'm pretty sure in the module it doesn't have anything to fucking do with Baldur's Gate. Like you start at Baldur's Gate and then you immediately leave. Look, I've completed Baldur's Gate, all right?
I haven't. I'm a fake fan.
I did speedrun the third act.
Yeah, I have 70 hours in that game and I haven't beaten it. Dude, I'm 100% in that shit.
Mitch and I are on a heroic run right now. We're about halfway through the second act. We're absolutely crushing it.
My champion, garlic bread.
Garlic bread.
Orc fighter. Sorry, orc barbarian.
I'm a mage. I'm a wizard. Drow wizard. I always choose drow. If you can't tell, there's a little bit of a dichotomy between Mitch and I. He generally goes towards dwarves, as you can see by his frame, his beautifully crafted
let
pixel
me
art
fix
frame.
it for you.
For those of you who are not watching, it doesn't matter. But and I usually go towards elves, hence my sage-like little tree study.
Elvish man.
But yeah, we haven't really played a lot of D&D since our last episode. And when I say we really haven't played a lot of D&D, we played absolutely no D&D at all. We were together for most of the time between the last 2 episodes. I was back in Illinois visiting for Thanksgiving, and we were just fooling around and drinking beer and eating pizza.
The boys were back in town. We were reunited. Did we play the second half of your session before last podcast? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you got called out for the jump spell, which is why you've been banished to a...
We had stopped after I'd abused the jump spell a lot already, so I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, no. That's why you were banished to the My Little Pony Avernus campaign for all eternity.
Honestly, it's not really feeling like a punishment anymore. The worst part is the fursuit that I have to wear. It is hot.
Yeah, they crank that heat up to like 80 degrees in the house. You're
Yeah.
just sweating bullets. Dude, have you ever worn like one of those actual like, like mascot suits?
No.
I have. And they are hot as hell.
Yeah, I bet. You're just wearing like super thick cloth layers.
I did a fundraiser in high school once for Culver's, which is a Midwestern chain, and they let me be Scoopy. The walking ice cream cone.
Dude, now that's a D&D character.
Yeah.
I'm Scoopy. That's the character you need for Curse of Strahd.
I'm so excited for Curse of Strahd to start back up. That's going to be the next campaign I run. For those of you who haven't, who have been living under a rock and haven't watched the previous 3 episodes,
go watch the last episode. Go watch it.
He's not fucking joking. But anyways, yeah, I just wrapped up a very, very long campaign, spanned over 2 years, went all the way from 1 to level 20, and now my next campaign is going to be running Curse of Strahd. I started it with my party like literally over a year ago, got burnt out, couldn't run 2 campaigns at the same time, so I'm gonna restart that and then see where that takes us. But I love Curse of Strahd. It's the best campaign module in 5e, in my opinion. That is arguable, but I think most people would probably agree with me. It's just fucking awesome. It's so thematic, so cool. But we've already touched on this a little bit, so we don't have to have to tread on familiar grounds here.
I would love to sink my teeth into Curse of Strahd, but unfortunately we only played like 4 sessions. So
yeah, well, maybe someone else should run it, okay? I can't run every fucking module in the goddamn game.
The problem is, we're both forever DMs. We never get to play unless we're playing against each other.
But
I need to get my friends' lazy asses off their ground and go run a game for us. You hear me? I'm talking to you. All right, one of my friends is about to start running a campaign, so I'll take that back for them. For them, I'll take that back. Oh, and I'm so excited for my guy, Mr. 14. That's his full name. Mr. 14. 14 characters in his name. His stats, 3 14s. His powers, the 14 elements.
Sounds bad.
Oh, yeah. I expect him to die, but it's going to be fun.
You got 3 14s?
Well, so we rolled stats. So my 3 highest stats were just 3 14s.
Just make him a shitpost character. He'll die, and then you can roll a better character and make him serious.
I'm going to play him like Dr. Doom. He's a wizard. He's a illusion wizard. He's going to be bending reality to his will, and then he's going to get hit with an arrow and take 8 damage and go down. I'm going to play him like he's the most powerful being alive, and then he's just going to get shredded by an orc.
By a singular adversary.
Yeah, he's gonna do like a whole huge monologue speech of how powerful he is, and he bends reality around him with his illusions, and then then he's gonna get shot with a blunderbuss, and his head's gonna come off.
Oh, hey, sometimes you got to make those shitpost characters. Like in Curse of Strahd, this is a good subject to kind of actually officially kind of dive into. There is a very fine line between making a funny character and a character that is nonsensical to the point where it actually detracts from the campaign. You want your campaign, or you want your character to have meaning. You want your character to, even if they're funny, still have a backstory, so their very existence is not a joke. Because then you don't have anything to latch into. The way to do that is let's look at Critical Role as an example. Scanlan Shorthall. That character is a walking punchline. All he does is make jokes and be sturdy, and he's just this raunchy little gnome that likes to fuck.
Yep.
But that's not his backstory. That's the way he acts. So whenever something serious comes up, he can pull himself out of that and actually become a serious character, which gives him a lot of depth. It gives him a lot of versatility when Sam, the guy who role plays him, is playing him. Because most of the time he's joking around until it's not time to joke around. And therefore, when you're doing that, it's really going to be hard for your sentient piece of cheese being carried by a mage hand. It's going to be hard for them to get serious when the time calls for it.
Oh, dude. I could turn that into a serious character. Dude, tragic backstory. Horrifically turned into cheese when they were young. But They're literally just the mage hand is connected to their dead spirit that just waddles around and holds them. And like when it gets to a serious moment, the person's like talking to a fucking bale of cheese, and you can hear the cheese crying and shit like, "My long lost daughter, Genevieve, I've come to rescue you." And then the camera pans to it. It's just cheese, a fucking mage hand.
You know what? I take everything I just said back.
The dramatic. But yeah, then it would be, I had to turn myself to cheese to save you in that factory accident.
The cheese factory.
It molded my flesh, morphed my being. All I know is dairy now.
No longer can eat. I no longer can sleep. I am a sentient, inanimate object. You need to have bits. Something that my partner and I do a lot, because she plays D&D now. I think I've talked about this. She was a D&D, not naysayer, but when I first met her, she was not into it. And when I brought her back to my place for the first time, she saw all my minis. I got a lot of minis, all right? I got a concerning amount of minis to the average citizen. So when I brought her back to my place, that was a make or break moment for me. But anyways.
Yeah, it's either like, oh, okay, I ignore this and I maybe get murdered, or I ignore this and it turns out to be okay, it's just a crazy hobby, or I go home. Those were the three options.
Well, one of the problems was she was not supposed to come back to my place. It was one of those moments where like we were out having drinks and we were still just a little tipsy, and so she couldn't drive home. And I was like, I mean, I live right down the street. We can go sober up at my place, which is already sketchy enough as it is.
Yeah.
When it was only like our second date. So I was like, this is a long shot.
I live right around the corner. I planned our date right next to my house. You want to go in my basement house?
Yeah, I lived in a basement unit too. You had to walk down like a pitch black flight of stairs. But yeah, so it was like date number 2. She really didn't know who I was as a person yet. And it was one of those moments where I was like, this is too soon. She cannot see this side of me yet.
Yeah, she's not involved enough yet to ignore it.
When I was living alone, I didn't have a living room. I just had a room with a D&D table. I did not have a couch. I did not have a TV. I had a bedroom with all of my minis in it, and then a living room with literally more minis and a giant D&D table. And it wasn't like this is a kitchen table that we play D&D on. No, it was a custom made D&D table with like, it had the indents with the felt. It was underlit with LEDs. It was something.
It was glorious.
And it was glorious to the likes of us, but to a regular woman, she walked in and she was like, oh. And I was like, I know what this looks like. Look, I promise I'm cool. I promise I have friends.
I'm not a serial killer. I promise. If you open my closet, you're not going to find people's skin.
But eventually I did win her over. Now she does play D&D with us because she realized how fucking awesome the game is after watching a couple sessions that I was running.
Hell yeah.
But anyways, my whole thing was, now that she plays D&D, we can talk about it like when we're in the car, when we're on road trips, or when we're just, booling around the house. And that has actually been very helpful because life is just a series of bits. And Hannah and I do a lot of bits where we just are talking and then something funny happens and we're like, okay, that's a bit now. But I can essentially bounce ideas off of her for D&D NPCs. Like there was one time where I was like, we were looking at engagement rings. And I was like, what if when we were looking at the engagement rings to like tell our ring size, they had to like fucking suck on our fingers or something? Like, hey, yeah, like come here, let's see what size you are. But then,
what the fuck?
This is just the fucked up shit that goes through my head. But then I was like, oh, dude, that's an awesome D&D NPC.
Oh, you want some magic rings? You want some magic rings? Come here. And then just does it on the person's finger. Whoa, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, well, that's what happened. They went to this big city in my previous campaign called Kespin, and they they walk into this gnome like artificer shop where all of his contraptions were just a bunch of homebrew magic items that were extremely niche and usually had some sort of drawback. So like there was a catapult that could launch dwarves, or there's a balloon that you press the button and you just start floating up, and if it pops then you're fucked, and just a lot of weird shit like that. But they wanted him to fashion rings for them, conveniently enough. So that was the bit. He just took their fingers and sucked on them a little bit. He's like, all right, that's your size, I know that. They almost fought him for that. But
Dude, imagine if you have like some cool NPC and you have him do something totally ridiculous, and your party just says no, and they just kill him.
dude, they almost did. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm just measuring your ring size.
Dude, that's when you have like 10 sessions later. That's when you have like, you notice like on your finger, the color's starting to change.
He fucking gave him an eldritch curse.
Yeah, like their fucking eldritch horror curse. You notice a tentacle growing out of your bone joint after you wake up.
The fucking Pirates of the Caribbean black spot on the hand.
Yeah. You've been marked.
Yeah, he was oh, dude. Oh, we've already talked about this a little bit, but let's keep this conversation going. Of NPCs that you try to introduce to the party and they say fuck no. I had this with a little guy in the Feywild, this little pathetic guy that was going to try and have this little arc, and the party at the moment they were in when they met him, they were so fed up with the current situation. They were like getting hunted and all this shit. He walked up to him and they were like, get the fuck out of our faces. And they just kept walking. There was a point in the campaign, my previous campaign, where I felt the party was a little bit lost. They were a little bit directionless, whether it was my fault, whether it was their fault. It's probably a combination of just us not, I was having trouble kind of steering them the way that I wanted, and they weren't really biting on anything I was throwing in front of them. So I decided to be a little heavy-handed with it, and they were in this kind of like dingy cliff town, very small, very isolated from the rest of the world, and they were investigating. They were trying to find a certain particular person to investigate. And I could tell that they weren't really like in it. They weren't really understanding exactly what I was trying to get them to do and all this stuff. So I threw in this omnipotent character, like this godlike Gandalf presence, this plain walker figure. But he took the form of a little sea otter person. So like they walk into this dingy bar and I was like, oh, perfect. This little otter's gonna walk in. I'm gonna role play him very much like this elder sage, Gandalf-esque figure, and he'll kind of guide them on the path. And that was the idea I had for him. I was like, he's not at god status, but he's like kind of just under, and he's just been watching them. And now in their moment of need, he's gonna kind of try and like guide them through. So they met him. He was very much like this Gandalf figure, super nice, and just I even talked like Gandalf to them, and he was offering some wisdom and trying to get to know all of them. They were like, this guy's being nice to us. He's acted weird. Like he wouldn't tell them where he came from, because he was, he's this kind of mysterious, almost like Fey-esque creature that's just there to help him and play along. But yeah, they were like, no, we don't fucking trust this guy. They like look. He left. They all deliberated. Then our cleric went out, sat next to him on the cliffside, was looking at the stars with him, and put his hand on him and banished him. Then wiped their hands, fucking went back into the tavern. They're like, nope, that guy's sketch. He was like a plain walker figure, so he did come back. He did come back eventually, much later in the campaign. They had left. They had to go into the Feywild to wrap up some family stuff with one of our characters, and they had a whole adventure there. When they got back to the city and the rest of their crew, because like I said, this was a seafaring campaign. I said that in a previous episode. They had the rest of their crew just kind of chilling at a bar waiting for him to get back. So they get back, they go to the ship, check on all their stuff, and one of the little gnome guys, Raspin, they're like, Raspin, how's everything going? And he's like, you guys won't believe it. We did this and this. We also met this cool guy. His name's Porridge, Little Otter. And they're like, what? They're like, yeah, he's the best. They're like, he's the best. We're so close to them. They're like, what did you tell him? He's like, we told him everything. We gave him our whole life story. And they're like, Porridge is a bad guy. And he's like, oh my God. Fucking just start running to the tavern. He was never a bad guy, though. He was literally only designed to only help the party. But sometimes they interpret it different.
Dude, the party won't trust anything. Throw a mimic door at them. They're going to check every door from that point forward.
Yeah.
You deceive them one time, they will never be deceived again.
I love puzzle fucking
Dude,
dungeons.
that's one thing I need to do. I need to do more actual standalone dungeons in my game. Like, that's one thing my games sorely miss, and I need to do better, is, like, actually having, like, an adventure site where, like, because the problem is usually they're in a city and it's open and it's like, oh, we're going into the sewers, and it's much more like theater of mind until we get to a battle, and it's less well thought out. Because, like, why the fuck would there be a trap in the sewer, you know? But it's I feel like I need to work on that more, of, like, making an actual dungeon where it's like, okay, every room kind of matters, and there's traps and there's things to see and places to go. Usually I'll have, like, a room or two of interest in, like, a travel, like, underground travel or something, and then they'll have, like, some random encounters of, like, fun stuff along the way. And that's one thing I need to work on, because I fucking love those as a player.
Yeah, and that's just something that comes with, like, we've both DM'd a lot online, we both DM'd a lot in person. It's hard to make classic dungeon crawls when you're doing it in person if you're trying to use terrain, because you only have so much terrain. And, like, from my perspective, I want to have all the maps ready. All right, this is one room. You walk down another hallway. Here's another room. You go down another little maze of hallways. Here's another room.
Yeah.
You only have so much terrain. And, you don't want to, every time a battle happens, okay, guys, can you give me 20 minutes to make this shit really quick?
Yeah, especially with the Dwarven Forge, it takes so fucking long.
That's one thing I struggle with, too. There are times where, like, you can kind of break up a dungeon across sessions, and it gives you, the ability to reuse certain pieces and all that stuff. But with the terrain, it's hard to create, like, this big dungeon crawl. I am a little nervous with Strahd to do that, because his castle is fucking huge.
Dude, that's what I'm also pissed about, that we never got to his castle. We were, like, just, like, 2 sessions before the castle.
Dude, you guys had so much time
Oh, really?
for the castle. Dude, you guys only did, like, 3 sessions.
Well, yeah, but I thought, like, the main thing of, like, Curse of Strahd was, like, the castle. Like, you're going to be dungeoning in the castle for a long time.
You will, but there's a lot of... See, Strahd is just so awesome because there's so many different ways the campaign can go, but it does follow a vaguely linear path. There's a lot of stuff before the castle.
Can't spoil.
I could talk about it. Yeah, I can't spoil anything first off. I could talk about Strahd for hours and hours. But yeah, doing like actual dungeon crawls, it's not something that... It was definitely more popular in previous editions. Roleplay has definitely taken not the front seat, but it's sharing the front seat with combat now in D&D, which I like. I like a nice even balance, but classic dungeon crawls are just not as common anymore. It's easy to, the art of puzzles is also very hard to not necessarily master, but just get right for your party, because you could have one party that is puzzle fucking geniuses. And then you could have another party where you throw a 4th grade level puzzle at them, and that's the session.
Yeah, dude, there's so many times when you throw a puzzle at them and you're like, oh, this is going to be solved, and they'll think about it for a minute. It'll be like, oh, it's that. And then they'll get it, and it'll be cool. And they'll do, like, a skill check or something to unlock it. And then there's times where, you think it's going to be easy, and they just can't figure it the fuck out. Like usually... I'd say usually the puzzle where they can't figure it out is because someone in the party says something that is completely wrong, and then they're like, that has to be it. And then they run with it, and they don't think of the other outcomes or the other potential solutions.
I once had this huge puzzle door planned. They were, my previous party was exploring a crypt, and, like, one of the crypts was kind of like booby-trapped, where if they went in there, the door would shut and it'd be a puzzle room, and they just keep getting bombarded by, like, hordes of undead that were just, like, crawling out of the walls. And I was so excited because this puzzle was, like, so intricate, and it had to do with, like, the lore of the place that they had been discovering and stuff. Before they walk into that room, one of the, I think it was the cleric, just conveniently, like, does, like, a divine sense.
Oh, yeah.
The cleric does, like, a divine sense or some sort of ability that lets you sense undead. So I'm not going to be cheap. So they walk up to the room, the door's open. I was like, your undead sense pings. I would have thought, like, okay, they'll probably investigate. Oh, there's undead in here. We got to go wipe this place out. They were like, look into the room. Yeah, let's just not even touch this. They just fucking walked away. I was like, God damn it. All you needed to do was walk into the room.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, that's the worst. Yeah, as a DM, there's some things that can be frustrating, but like, obviously, like players, like if they know that something's gonna be dangerous or they don't necessarily have to take a fight. A lot of people will take the fight. They'll just be like, I just want to play and fight stuff. But like most players, if they're smart and they like know they have a long adventure ahead of them, they'll just be like, nah, we're not dealing with that. We're going elsewhere.
and also, a smart party. This comes into play of if you're actually making our players use their resources and stuff, then they will actively try to avoid fights.
Yeah.
If they can. Like if they're actually in a dungeon crawl, they're like, oh, we can just bypass this room to conserve our resources. Fuck yeah, we'll do that. But if it's like a one fight a day, then yeah, your players are probably like, yeah, let's go. Let's just go in and kill them all.
Yeah, let's go kill
they're just
I want to fireball everything. I've got 10 spell slots left.
yeah. But if you're actually utilizing your party's resources and doing the, the three, I think like the standard is like 3 encounters per day. That's kind of like how the mechanics of the
Something
game
like
are
that. 3 or 4.
built around. Yeah. So if you're actually utilizing that, which to my own fault, I don't utilize that a whole lot. But sometimes, party goes a few sessions without a long rest if they're like right in the middle of something. It's rough. It's rough when the party just decides to not tackle one of your encounters. But that's what they want to do. So
They do what they want to do. And, if it's something that's really important, you can kind of force the encounter upon them.
Yeah.
Like if they catch it early or like in that scenario, since they know the room is probably booby trapped or there's probably mummies in the coffins or whatever. You could probably have it so it's like, okay, they know what's in there. They're not going to get surprised now. And since the door's open, it's like, we're just not going to go in. As a DM, you could just have it so that like when they start walking down the hallway, there's a tripwire there and it just, and then it rings like a bell or like the sarcophagi open. And then it's like, the zombies come out. But now they're not surprised because they didn't just walk into the room,
And you can even say that too. Like if they foil your plans and you're like, damn, I really wanted to have this encounter. This is going to be a really fun encounter. You can say something along those lines where you're like, okay, I need to make up something on the spot. They're going to fight these guys no matter what they do, but they just decide how it happens. You can say like, all right, you do the tripwire and you can see him now running down the hallway. You could literally say like, congrats, like you avoided being surprised. And that will still make them feel good.
Yeah, they'll feel good, and they won't feel like you're forcing the combat on them because they chose to avoid the danger. Now they're being rewarded for that by not being surprised by all the monsters jumping out or not getting hit by the trap that is also in there because they didn't go in the room.
There's ways to kind of, finagle your way around it as a DM and kind of force the enemies on the party without taking away the party's agency, because that is something you never want to do. You never want to take away the party's ability to choose for themselves.
Unless it's some sort of cinematic moment that's not necessarily going to greatly affect the characters, or if it's some sort of story beat or story arc that you're taking a character on, then you can kind of take away their agency. Like there's certain things where hypothetically, like if somebody has a patron or something and they're a warlock, like you could have a moment in the game where like they're ripped away from reality and the patron is forcing them to like talk to them or something like that. That's not necessarily taking away their agency, but it's like a plot device that is kind of forcefully being put upon them.
Well, yeah, that's not taking away their agency, right? That's just something is happening to them. Like if you say like, hey, like for this example, if the party walked up to the door and saw the sarcophagus and they were like, oh, there's undead skeletons and zombies in there. Yeah, we're not going to do this room. If they walked away and I said, well, now zombies pop out of the walls and you guys run into the room anyways. If a DM said that to me, I would have been like, hey, no, I fucking don't.
Yeah, dude. I'm very pleased to have said that I've never had a DM who runs the game like that. And if they do, they'll say, hey guys, like, this is the only encounter I prepped for today. Can we run it? And then it's like, okay, yeah, I understand. And if they work with you on it, it's kind of like, you guys aren't going to get surprised. Like, I kind of messed up in prepping, and this is the only thing I have. Okay, sure. Yeah, we'll go in the room and play the encounter. But shit like that, I've never had to deal with, luckily. Except for one time. It wasn't necessarily like that.
Was it me?
No,
was it me?
No, it was not you.
Oh, thank God.
No. I had a DM where we had to solve this puzzle. The way to solve it was you had to shoot certain spells to like disable certain things, like these pillars of like they're like flame pillars, and once you disable them, the door opened. And if you guessed wrong or tried to like move them or turn them, it would like explode with a fireball. We had our bard investigate the pillars, and he rolled a high enough investigation to discover like, oh, there's these weird symbols on the pillars, but you're not necessarily sure what they are. I'll describe them to you, and you can try and figure it out. It turned into us just randomly casting spells on these pillars until we figured it out, because we didn't know what, we at the time didn't know how to open them. They were on like dials, and there were switches, and it was all just a red herring. And it was really, you just had to cast a certain spell school on each of the pillars to open it. Well, the dials and the pillars had the spell school symbol on them. And we were trying to figure out this puzzle for literally like an hour at this guy's house. Like, we were trying everything. My character was just getting torched trying to open this shit, because I was the only one strong enough to turn the dials. And I kept having to go heal. We were wasting all of our spell slots. And finally, we're like, okay, we're just going to spam spells at them and see if it works. We got lucky, and one of them worked, and we're like, oh, it's just the spell schools? And immediately, I literally got mad. I wasn't being mean, but I got mad at the table. I was like, dude, this guy is a bard. We have a wizard in our party. These guys study spells. They know what the spell school symbols are. What are we doing here for an hour? We even said, like, what spell school is it? Since he knows it's a spell school, he's like, oh, well, you don't know. You got to figure it out. We've been at this for an hour. Just give us something. Like,
Yeah.
these characters don't know the spell schools of the spells they're casting? They don't know the symbol? The wizard doesn't know what the symbol is when he writes it in his fucking book? Are you crazy?
That's the wizard's entire class.
That's his entire class. He doesn't know oh, you don't know it. Dude, I started... That was my worst moment in D&D. I wasn't being mean, but I was literally raging, like, under my skin at the table. I was like, I just wasted so much shit to open this fucking door, and we've been doing this for an hour. This is one time of D&D we play a week. Oh my god, I was so mad. And he just wouldn't budge. He was just like, oh, you don't know. And like, we just, dude, oh my god. That was the most infuriating moment at the table. That's a D&D horror story.
That's rough. That was it like a newer DM?
No, he was seasoned. He was an older guy. Like he had been playing much longer than me. Like, he was mainly a player, and he also ran the games. Dude,
I'm gonna say that sounds like a kind of like a rookie mistake of like, you know, you gotta help your players along. If you realize your players are hitting an absolute roadblock, fucking help them. We're here to have fun.
And it wasn't even that he didn't help us. It was that, like, this is something that our characters or classes or just in general, they should just know that. And, like, we knew what it was, but he wouldn't tell us specifically what was going on. So we had to figure... And I sound like a bitchy player that can't figure out the puzzle, but it's like, we tried everything for, like, an hour. And then we eventually realized, like, oh, it's just the fucking spell schools. We assumed it wasn't the spell schools because we thought our characters would just know that when we rolled our high investigations.
Yeah.
Like, so we were like, okay, it can't be that, because we would know that innately.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the DM not understanding, just like, you gotta help your players out sometimes. And like this is one of those cases of like, you're just not on the same page.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing against the guy who was running the game. Like, he was fine. Like, there was no problem. Like, it was just a disagreement in how the game should be run. And I could tell me and the players at the table were very frustrated, and like, just nothing was happening.
Yeah.
But like, it's nothing against him. Like, I don't have a problem with him. It was just, you know, he was the DM and that's how he ran the game. So I don't agree. I thought it was stupid, but
that's a tough thing to do. And like, I've had those situations where, you know, I've believed that what I was saying was right at the table, where a player believed that something they were saying was right. Like, that is something that is inevitably going to come up at the table, where you do get into some sort of disagreement with a player. Sorry, I'm burping. I talked to Mitch about this a few months ago. Like, there was one very intense battle I was running, and the rule for counterspell, it is still debated to this day, but ultimately the way that I interpret the rules is, you cannot cast 2 spells in a turn in the sense that you cannot use your action to cast a spell, and then you cannot use your bonus action to cast a spell. That is the ruling of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Some people take that ruling and say you can only cast one spell per turn, no matter what. Some people take the ruling as written and say you cannot do both action and bonus action. However, you can do a reaction spell.
Yeah. So
the rule doesn't say you
ruled-
can't.
Yeah, I ruled the same way. In the rules, it says you can't cast like 2 spells on a turn when you cast a spell as a bonus action. That's just rules is written flat out. Like if you cast a spell as a bonus action on your turn, you can't cast another spell. But your reaction technically is not on your turn. Even though it's your turn when it goes off, it's a round-wide ability. So it doesn't technically go off during your turn, even though it's your turn.
So the situation was I had a spellcaster and an adversary to the party. They casted a spell at a party member. One of the party members counterspelled it, and then I went, he's going to counterspell your counterspell. He's going to use his reaction during his turn to counterspell that. And he's like, you can't cast more than 1 spell per turn. And I was like, no. This took a lot of research. So I didn't know all the rulings right off the bat, but I was like, I'm pretty sure you can still use your reaction. I'm pretty sure you can still do that. He's like, nope, you can only do it once. And I was like, look, I don't have all the rules in front of me at this very moment. And I understand that this is extremely intense. I'm going to rule it that he can. And I could tell that player was pissed, but the player accepted it. He's like, he literally said, he's like, you're the DM. You're the DM. It's your table. And I was like, just, you can do that too. It's not a just a me thing, but
that's just how we
I did
rule
look it up. Yeah, it's just, that's how I am ruling it. That is what I truly believe. I'm sticking firm to it. I'm not trying to slight anybody, but that is my interpretation of the rule. It is a very heavily debated kind of topic, but ultimately I did so much research because I felt terrible. Because me and my players are very close, and we are very trusting of each other. And that was one of the few moments in the campaign where like I was like, oh shit, I pissed someone off.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, there's no rule in the book that says you can only cast 1 spell a turn. It's just, it says if you cast a spell as a bonus action, you can't cast another spell on your turn. So
yeah, so I felt really bad about it. I did extensive research, and I even told them when the session was done. This is something good to kind of take into consideration. If you ever get into one of these situations with a player, I told them when the session was done, I was like, look, if I end up being wrong, I'm going to do all the research I possibly can. If I end up being wrong, I'll give you your spell slot back. You don't have to waste that counter spell, and I'll eat my shorts. But that's what I believe. And he was like, dude, it's fine. It's your table.
Yeah,
so
as long as you're reasonable about it, and like you're like, no, I believe I'm right. Like, you're not, as long as you're not adversarial towards the player, like, no, I'm going to rule it this way. You can go fuck yourself. No, it's, as long as you're just like, well, dude, I'm pretty sure this is how it works. I'm going to run it this way at my table. That's how I've always seen it run. I've never seen it run where you can't cast a reaction spell on your turn because you cast a spell already. How else would counterspell work? The counterspell is like one of the biggest memes in D&D. When you counterspell someone's counterspell when they're counterspelling your spell, that's like a huge thing. Everyone knows that because that's how it works.
Yeah, I love that, especially because, and I've talked about this before, my previous party was so spellcasting heavy. Multiple people had counterspell. So if there was ever a mage battle, it'd be like counterspell. No, I counterspell that. No, I counterspell your counterspell. I've had literally 4 counterspells go off on a trigger once, and it's just an awesome situation. That's completely beside the point. But the counterspell battles are awesome. That is something that's going away with new D&D.
Yes, and I'm so glad. I fucking hate counterspell.
I also am very glad. I do think it is a net positive to the game. I do love counterspell wars, but counterspell fucking is just it's so powerful.
Yeah, and the new version's still good. It still wastes the enemy's turn and delays whatever spell they're about to cast by a turn if it succeeds, but it doesn't just negate it outright and waste the spell slot, which I think is good.
I agree.
But yeah, the new counterspell in my opinion is so much better, cuz I know it's gotten a lot of hate cuz it's like, oh, well, it's trash now, it doesn't destroy the spell. Well, no, the whole point of counterspell is like you literally took away that big spell turn. from the creature.
Here, let me go. I have the PHB literally right there. I'll go get it so we can actually read the new counterspell because it is different.
Yeah.
It changes things. Okay, I have the PHB, the new PHB right in front of me now. Let's see. So counterspell, still 3rd level. Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard. Bards can take it with Magical Secrets as well. Casting time, 1 reaction, which you take when you see a creature cast a spell within 6 feet of you, blah, blah, blah. Instantaneous. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. The creature makes a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect, and the action, bonus action, or reaction used to cast it is wasted. If that spell was cast with a spell slot, the slot isn't expended.
Yes. So
So a couple changes there.
Yeah, a couple changes. It's definitely worse. Like I'm not arguing that it's like not bad. Like it's worse than it was before, but it's still good if it works, because it's still your Hail Mary of like, oh, let's say our barbarian is under 100 health and that Finger of Death is coming his way. We need to counterspell it. We can delay it a round if the Lich or whatever fails his save. If we delay it around, okay, the cleric's going to run up as fast as he can to the barbarian and cast heal on him. Now he can't get Finger of Death. And it wasted that whole Lich's turn. So it's still a net necessity for sure for a spellcaster to get. Probably don't pick it up as early anymore. It's definitely more for those higher level spells, I would say. But in any combat encounter where it's like a spellcaster in the party, you're still going to want it because you're wasting their turns. And it's just your reaction.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is that it leaves it up to the DM to decide whether or not the creature fails or succeeds. And this is a whole other conversation in itself of like whether you trust your DM or not. Because the other way that counterspell worked in the previous rules was you just need to roll a check. If the spell is higher than the spell level that you cast counterspell at, you just needed to roll a check. Usually the DM would tell you what DC it was, and you would see if you did it or not. This time, you are making the DM roll behind the screen a Constitution saving throw, which they can easily just say, oh, well, they made it. They made it. Sorry, spell still goes off. That now becomes a thing of if you trust your DM or not. I inherently have trust issues with DMs, whether I inherently trust the DM or not. There are times where I'm like, are you fudging your fucking rolls behind that screen?
No way. Like when some shit happens where it's like 3 or 4 rolls in a row that are just astronomically high. Like if you have a character that has like 22 AC and the goblins run up to you and they're all hitting like 24s and 25, you're like, no fucking way.
or the opposite, where like I'm fucking one shot. I'm sitting in front of the, I'm sitting in front of the big bad guy looking up at him as he's about to execute me. And then the big bad guy rolls a natty 1, misses the killing blow. I'm like, dude, just kill me.
Yeah.
I know you fudged that roll.
A natty 1 and then a 3.
Yeah.
And then we got a 4. So all of those rolls equal to like a 12, 11, and a 10. It's like,
I'm like, bullshit. Just fucking kill me.
Yeah, this guy hasn't missed an attack this whole fight, and now that I'm on death's door, he misses 3 in a row on his turn.
My actions led me to this. Let me face the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. You gotta trust your DM, and also, look at. I know we're already kind of creeping up on time. Maybe we just skip the wisdom check this time and just fucking keep going, because I'm about to get heated.
Okay.
I'm about to get fired up.
Turn up the fire. Turn up that heat. Let's get angry.
Don't
gotta get mean.
Fudge your rolls as a DM. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't fudge them.
Now, there's a lot of different ways that people can consider a DM fudging their rolls. One, the first and foremost, and probably the most obvious, is just fucking lying about what you rolled behind the screen. I think it sucks. It takes the very stakes out of the game. If you are pulling strings behind the DM screen that is going to dictate the reality of what happens on the table, just write a fucking book. And sometimes there are things that, like, I never fudge my rolls as a DM, and I will go on record saying that. I do not fucking hey, sorry. Got a frog in my throat. I do not fudge my rolls as a DM. If there is any D20 being rolled behind my screen, I even say this before the campaign starts, especially if I'm with a new party. I say, hey, if there is ever no matter what, anytime where you think I am lying about what I rolled, call me out and I will show you what I rolled. I will literally pull the DM screen up and show you. And I even literally, like, whenever I roll a crit or whenever I roll a natural one, I will literally stand up and I'll say, you can check me. I've said it so many times that my players actually for my birthday bought me and all of them a shirt with my face on it with the phrase, you can check me. Because I care so deeply that my players trust what I'm rolling that, like, if I roll a crit that ends up fucking killing somebody, I don't want someone on the other side of the screen being like, he fucking, he orchestrated that shit. He's fucking lying. I want them to understand that that was natural. I'm never going to compromise the trust of my players to make the outcome what I want it to be. Now, it is a little different when we're taking dice out of the equation. And I will openly admit, there are times where I will prolong the HP of an enemy to get a satisfying kill, as long as it doesn't affect the core mechanics of the game. Like, for example, the final boss of my previous campaign. If anyone who played in my previous campaign is listening, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pull the curtains back a little bit. I'm gonna show you the computer that the Wizard of Oz is using for a second. But the giant Leviathan that they were fighting, one of the players like shot it. I think the ranger shot it and it went to 0 HP. And I was like, that's not, just shooting it with a bow is not enough to kill the final boss of this campaign. So what I did was I just waited for a few more players to go, and I kind of let everybody get another hit in. And then right before the creature went again, when the last player attacked, that's when I said, how do you want to do this? And I said it to the whole party. I said, with everybody, working together, how do you all want to kill this creature together? So they did this giant, like, fucking wombo combo where the ranger's shooting arrows through it. The wizard who's like latched onto his tail is like exploding it from the inside. And it was this awesome thing. And it didn't affect how the fight played out. The creature was dead 3 turns ago, but it didn't go again. It didn't kill someone in between that time. It was just kind of like it was just for flavor. It was a little bit of a leap of flavor to kind of get everyone in position to satisfyingly kill the creature.
It's to have the Avengers moment.
Yeah, you want to have the Avengers moment. You want shit to be epic. And when you're doing things like that, that's totally understandable. And it feels good to the player. Like, and there was even a time where there was like a mini boss, like a boss of one character's personal arc that they were fighting. And the cleric delivered the killing blow, but I kept him alive. I said, like, he falls to his knees, looking up at you and, begging for mercy. And literally the bard who was his arch nemesis. The cleric was like, should I kill him again? And above table, the player was like, no, I think Tom's just being nice and letting me get the killing blow. And like, and it's that agreement, right? It's like, he's not going to get up and slit the bard's throat now and derail the game. It's just, you're extending the rules a tiny bit to give a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, it's just for cinematics. It's not for...
Yeah, exactly.
But in my campaign that's ongoing, that we haven't played in like 3 months, which sucks, just because of scheduling problems.
Get your shit together.
That's besides
Get your shit together, players.
Yeah, all right.
You know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. But yeah, so that's actually a source of contention, because one of my players is a Hexblade, and when he kills things, their soul goes into his sword. And I have this reoccurring fight that happens where his sword sometimes can't hold back all the power it's got. And those souls will come out, and it's going to be round 2 or 3 for some of these monsters. So it's kind of like a little random thing that I can spread out around the campaign to reuse old minis. I can redo fights, but they're stronger now, the party. It's a cool little like rehash of old things they've done, and it's cool. Like, oh fuck, who's coming out of the sword? And every time, almost every big fight, obviously the person who does the most damage in the party, I'd say, is the Hexblade Warlock, because he's also a paladin, so he'll do heavy smites on top of his high charisma. Obviously, everyone else in the party does super high damage, but he has the most burst. And almost every time they kill a big enemy or a powerful enemy, because sometimes when he kills big enemies and he gets a lot of souls, I upgrade his sword. It's his magic item that grows with him. So he wants to get those finishers, and I've been accused a couple times by a couple of my players of like, you delayed that so he could kill it on his turn. I'm like, dude, I swear I didn't. I swear I didn't. I know it sounds great for me to let him kill him and then I can bring him back later, but it's just how it happens. And, you know, sometimes your players don't trust you either, even if you don't do it. There was also one time in my campaign where in that big climactic dragon fight, it was kind of getting down to the wire of like, this ancient dragon was way more powerful than them, but he wasn't really focusing on them the whole time. He was fighting the guard and he was like blowing up the wall and he was attacking them too, but they weren't his main target. And it was getting towards the end, and he was getting really low. And I was not planning on him to die in this siege. So I was getting to the point where I was almost thinking in my head, I was like, man, I really don't want him to die. But I had a set number of rounds he was going to be there, and then he was going to get the fuck out. And so he kind of flew behind enemy lines, tried to take out as many creatures as he could, and he flew up. And it got to the point where like he was on the brink of death, and it was just in time for the round to change where he was like, okay, I'm gonna start booking, and he double dashed away. The fighter threw like 2 javelins, Hail Mary. Somebody threw a chromatic orb on him and did like, they literally got him like under like 10 health. It was crazy. I was like, dude, he's so close. Like I was telling them above table, like you hit him, and like he was an ancient black dragon, and it was crazy. Like I didn't think they would do that much damage to him, and they didn't have their big guns because the fighter was feared the whole time. But anyways, it got to the point where I was getting really worried because this is like the big bag of my campaign, and I'm like, fuck, he's getting so low. And that thought crept into my mind. It was like, make him have more health. Don't let them kill him. And it crept in my mind. I was like, no, he's only got like 2 rounds left to go. We'll see what happens. And
you gotta resist that urge,
dude. And I described him like on that last round when they were getting their last attacks in. Like I described him flying away, like his wings were on fire. They were throwing chromatic orbs at him and blasting him. His wings are on fire. He looks like half crippled in the air, flying away, and he's like barely airborne. And you know, he got hit with one more chromatic orb and a javelin, and it brought him so low. And like I described it like he almost like started to fall, and they saw him catch himself, and then he double dashed out of there. And it was a super heavy thunderstorm. They couldn't see him anymore. And like he literally got out by the skin of his teeth. Like it was crazy. And yeah, again, that's like the urge to increase his health was so fucking strong. Like I really wanted to, but you know, you got to keep it level. If they killed him there, that would have been crazy. That would have been a big feat.
You got to resist that urge to like alter the course of the game for what you want. Now, what we're talking about here is, I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this that are like, you guys are just fucking wrong, straight up. I disagree with you. Now, adding health is a very common thing amongst DMs, as far as I know, just to, you know, bolster the combats if they're absolutely decimating it. And if that's what you want to do, then that's your purview. All the power to you. But you better not fucking fudge your dice. You better not lie. That is one thing I will stick to my guns. This is the hill I will die on. You don't fucking lie about what you're rolling behind the screen.
Yeah.
There are sometimes I take the screen away. Honestly, the real reason that I have the screen up is so they don't see my notes.
And my minis.
And I keep my minis in a little chest.
Oh, okay.
But is so they don't see my fucking notes, or so they don't see the health of the creature or like the stats. Because sometimes I work off a laptop, sometimes I work off pen and paper. But it's not because I want to hide my dice. And in fact, I have big dice. You can see, right, if you're watching, there's a little red die in my dice tray right there. I have a big dice for any important roll. I roll it in front of the party. I bring out the big dice, kind of like the Dimension 20 fucking, what's it, the Tower of Doom, or the dice box of Doom or something, where I bring out the big dice and I'm like, all right, I need to roll a 9 or higher for this. And fucking everybody's into it.
Yeah, they're all just
everybody is locked the fuck in. And if you're a new DM and that scares you, fucking learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Yeah, sorry,
and
I get it. I understand some people. There's the whole meme of like they adjust the health of their creature, they give it a bunch more health. I get that occasionally. Like I don't do that, but I would understand if you do, because there are times where it's like you do this huge encounter with the boss and your party gets lucky and they get like 3 crits in a row and they just slam your dude in like a round. Or if you just as a DM prepped wrong and you're like, whoa, I did not expect for that to happen. And like this was supposed to be like a cinematic thing, end of game campaign thing, and they just blew my boss out of the water in a round and a half. I understand that. I can't bring myself to really do that. Maybe like Tom said, I'll delay hits a couple times to just so everyone can get some play in. But like I'm not giving the creature a whole nother round to just thrash for no reason, you know. But I can see why people would do it because it feels bad. And I honestly, as a player, it would feel great. Like we've been like if it's like a bad guy, like a big bad boss, and we've been chasing the whole campaign, and like we get in there and we just fucking slam him. We just put our fucking dicks on the table and he just gets destroyed in like a round and a half. The DM's describing him getting thrashed. That as a player, even though it's only 2 rounds in the comp and like it's like, okay, he's fucking dead. That feels really good. It does.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the caveat to that. It's one thing when your party goes in and you're rolling hot and you walk in ready to fuck shit up and you do exactly that because the party is absolutely destroying. There's one thing where the party is destroying, and then there's the other thing of the DM just wasn't prepared. And you can usually tell as a player which one it is. Like if you guys are just critting out the wazoo, you're like, hell yeah, this feels awesome. We are decimating this guy, and he was talking so much shit. But if you walk in and you're just having a regular battle and you're beating the shit out of him, you're like, oh, DM was obviously not prepared for us to be this powerful. That doesn't feel as good, but and that's the thing is, if I'm a player, I don't care what you're doing behind the screen as long as I don't have an inkling that you're cheating. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
see no evil, hear no evil.
Yeah, I want to believe that you are doing everything how you planned it. So if you're adding health and I'm not aware of it or even suspicious of it, I'm still happy. I just want to have a good fucking time, right? I want to have a good D&D experience, and I want to feel like I'm not being catered to, whether it's adding health from the enemy or sparing me on a crit that would have killed me. I don't want to feel like, dude, you just manipulated that to get the outcome you want, didn't you? Yeah. I never want to feel like that as a player.
Because then you're not playing. You're just here for a ride.
Yeah, it takes away your agency.
Yeah.
Like I want, if I'm sitting there on my knees in front of the bad guy and he's about to execute me, my actions got me to that point. I want to be executed at that point. I want the story to take place how chance is going to allow it. When there's 2 nat 1s in a row that save me from death, I feel bad then. Mm.
But
I'm like, I shouldn't be alive right now.
But there is one way you can do this as a DM, like a get out of jail free card or something. You have to, as a DM, before the game or just before multiple games, you have to think like, okay, if one of my players is like about to die and I really can't have that single player die, say like a cleric or something, and say the cleric has been praying to this deity forever, or the party's had a ton of interactions with this cleric's like angelic deity friend or something, like a MacGuffin. Maybe one time in the campaign you can have it so that like he's about to die and like he's been like the hammer's coming down from this demon lord. He's coming to slam him, and the cleric in his final moments, he maybe like gives a prayer or something. That's when as the DM, you can be like, okay, we've built the story for this. You have the fucking guardian angel fly in and slam down and scoop him up and save him. Maybe like once in the campaign for the party, maybe twice. But like it has to be thematic. It has to go with the story. Like if the party was expecting backup, maybe have like the wall explode behind the creature, and then the creature still hits the cleric and he goes down. Or like he's got 2 failed death saves, but then all of a sudden all the reinforcements are here and the demon lord's like, oh shit, and he goes and takes care of them.
Fucking like fucking first light on the 5th day of it.
Yeah, you got a Gandalf.
Gandalf shows up with the Riders of Rohan and saves the fucking day.
Yeah, and it's fucking awesome. And it's the one time, and you still suffered a big loss. It doesn't mean the fight's over. Like that guy could still kill everybody, But if you feel like you've destroyed the players or something's going on, you can not necessarily cheat, but you can do. There's ways out of the situation that's not going to make your players feel bad. Like, I bet if Aragorn and King Theoden were players and they're fighting in the orc pits and they're about to die and this is our final stand, if the DM brings in the NPC that we've been adventuring with for the whole campaign and he's been gone, and it lines in with the story like, oh yeah, the other half of the army that was missing, the NPC that you love who's powerful is like, look to the north, and then they all come charging down and help you guys finish the combat. That, as a player, you'd be like, yeah! Like, you'd be so excited. It wouldn't feel like it was stolen. And then you continue the fight. You don't just win it. You continue that shit. Yeah, if you had the giant angel come down and kill the demon lord and then be like, you're all saved, that would be a problem.
There's also ways you can do this too. Like, if a party decimates your encounter, like I talked about one of the big bad villains of my campaign, Darrow. He's kind of this warlock-esque figure. They killed him midway through the campaign, and I did not plan for him to die. There was a battle that happened. They were like fighting in a maelstrom, and they fucking sniped him in the head, and his head exploded. I can't remember what happened. I think the bard psychic lanced him, and his head just exploded. He did an insane amount of damage, and I don't fudge my shit. So I was like, he's dead. So I'm sitting there after the session like, fuck, dude, I had so much more planned for this guy. What am I going to do? Oh, wait a second. He's a warlock. His patron's the Demogorgon. Okay. His patron's going to bring him back stronger. And then that was a whole fucking thing.
Oh,
and it doesn't feel, the party doesn't feel cheated. It's not like I was just like, actually, he's back. And now he's better than ever. And now he's going to kill you guys. It was this whole thing where like they went off and did other stuff. And then subtly they realized, oh shit, he's back somehow.
Yeah.
And that actually,
he's gained power and he's been morphed. He's not even the same character anymore. He's almost like a new guy. He's the same guy, but he's a new threat in a way, because he's like, I've signed a deal with this demon lord, and now I'm your doom once again, and now my goal is to kill you rather than just just try and get you to agree with me. Like you changed the trajectory of the evil character, and you changed his reasoning for what he was doing. So it felt like a new threat, even though it's the same guy and he just came back. Yeah,
I mean, like, I bought a whole new mini form. I painted it myself. I made it this whole thing. It wasn't just like a cheap, like, psych, he's back. Haha, you can't kill the guys that I don't want to die. It was like, no, this actually progressed the story. You killed him, and he has evolved since then. The plan has now changed, and things are different because of what you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's because the players affected it. If he didn't die, he would have remained the same guy, and the campaign would have continued. But since he died, you changed his NPC character in a great way.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be the big bad of the campaign, or at least one of the big bads of the campaign. He was just he was a big adversary for the group that I didn't plan to die so soon. And when he died too soon, I was like, oh shit, I can actually turn this into something really cool. You know, when your party gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I turned into this super awesome, really, really big villain that they hated this guy by the end of it. They hated him. They hated him so much that they kind of cheesed him. They were so mad at this guy that they put him in a force cage and then blended him. Look, it's not meta. The whole force cage thing is
powerful. It's powerful. It's good.
It's a deadly combination that I wouldn't be surprised if some DMs banned it from their tables.
No,
but
can't do that. There's ways out of it.
They were the thing is they casted silence. So the situation was they fought this guy and he almost died. They had a huge climatic battle with him. I think I actually talked about it in a previous episode, but they had a huge climatic battle with him and he barely escaped with his life. Like literally under 10 HP, like kind of like what you were talking about, Mitch. Barely escaped. They were so mad that he escaped that they all concocted this plan of they had a deck of many things. The ranger pulled the wish card. It gave her one wish. So she's like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wish him here. I'm going to wish him here in front of us. And then the wizard is going to cast silence on him. And then the bard is going to force cage him. and then the cleric is going to cast spiritual weapon or spirit guardians or whatever. So they had this giant series of events where they wished him there, they cast silence, they force caged him. He could not teleport out now because he was silenced. So they blended him. They brought him back there after losing the fight on their terms and killed him. They outright executed him. He didn't even get an attack in.
Crafty players.
And I was like, I can't, would I have done, like, I was peeved about it as a DM because I was like, damn, dude, this is a super powerful guy and you're just cheese grating him.
Yeah.
It was a tiny bit meta.
You're cheesing him, yeah. But, it was a good strategy.
But it was a great strategy. And I said, like, guys, if this is what you want to do, then I will support it. As long as all of the party, because it was a cheese. They cheesed this guy.
Yeah. He was in the grade.
So above the table, I was like, look, if this is how you want to handle this guy, then so be it. It was a one-time thing because the ranger only had one casting of wish, so it's not like they could just do this every time. Like, if this is how you want to do it, then we'll do it like this. And then the Demogorgon showed up because his chosen one died. So it was great. Then they bodied the Demogorgon too, but that's a whole other thing that we already
talked about that last week, so it's good.
So it doesn't matter. Anyways, but yeah. What the fuck are we even talking about? Oh yeah, you have to trust your players.
Yeah, trust your players, trust your DM.
Yeah, you have to trust your DM.
Yeah, you all have to trust each other. We're playing a game. As a DM, you can get really attached to certain things. You just got to let it go. You got to evolve the campaign. Obviously, as a DM, when you get that big new mini and you spend 4 hours painting it and you're like, oh, it's going to be so cool. He's going to be a reoccurring villain. And then when your party just fucking smacks him into the fucking ground, yeah, it's going to feel a little bad as a DM. But, they're probably having fun while they're doing it. And if they're not having fun, then maybe there's a bigger problem at the table.
That's the goal, right? You just want to have fun.
Yes.
And of course, it's hard for a DM to, especially as the party gains in levels, to kind of keep that balanced feeling happening. But it comes with time. It comes with experience. If you're a newer DM and you're having trouble balancing encounters, just keep trucking through it. Watch as many YouTube tutorials and videos as you can, and you'll learn. You'll learn from experience. Every party is different. Even if you're playing with the same people, every party is different. My party that I ran for 2 years, they were the same fucking characters. People died, but they were always able to be revivified and stuff. So they had the same characters the entire time. They were a well-oiled machine by the end of it, but it wasn't always like that. Don't think like, oh man, my players outsmart me all the time now. This is going to be like this forever. No, because then you're going to start a new campaign eventually, and they're going to have to figure out their flow once again. And you got to figure out your flow too. You'll understand what they like doing, and you'll be able to counteract that. We had a whole thing about this, I'm pretty sure, already in one episode. So yeah, just keep going, and as long as everyone's having fun, then you're having a good game.
Dungeons and Dragons.
It was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, it's not about the journey; it's about the friends. It's about killing.
The real dungeon and dragon was the friends we made.
Yeah, the friends you made along the way was the dragon.
If you're a bard.
Well,
I guess this is a good time to call it. Sorry, we didn't get to the wisdom check today. We were just kind of yapping. And the wisdom check got skipped. But you know what? We'll come back. We'll come back with the wisdom check next week.
We'll come back strong.
Hey, comment your questions. Any questions?
It doesn't even have to be a question. If you just want to say something to us and you want to directly ask us something, or just be like, dude, I hate your forehead, or I hate your beard, or Mitch, you're ugly. Oh,
don't talk about my 5 head like that.
I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about me. But yeah, anything. You say, oh, dude, why are you 5'2"? I don't know, but
you're not 5'2".
I'm a dwarf. What can I say? But yeah, if you just want to just talk to us, you can just say stuff. We'll probably bring it up.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, like if you comment, if it's a question, if it's a comment that pertains to the podcast, just don't be shy. Throw your comments into the YouTube video. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment on Spotify, so do that as well. Or just DM me. You can. My handle is The Adventure Sage. At The Adventure Sage. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and obviously YouTube, which is where most of you watch this. This was episode 4. You can find Mitch. What's your handle, Mitch?
It's the dual wielder pixel art. I'm pretty sure. Dual Wielder _ pixel art on Instagram.
Dual Wielder _ pixel art. Mitch is an awesome pixel artist. Obviously, you can see our frames around us. That is all Mitch. The cover of the podcast, that is all Mitch. So you need any character art done. Like I said, his starting price is $1 billion. It's not that bad in this economy. So you can definitely make that happen.
Or if you can somehow send My Little Pony character 100 gold, I'll take that as well.
There you go. There you go. He will be taking donations to his My Little Pony campaign as well to try and get out of Avernus.
Yes.
You can buy your way out of Avernus, apparently.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I can buy my way out of the campaign. I need $1 billion, or I need 500,000 in-game D&D gold.
We also accept cold hard cash too, or Bitcoin.
Yeah, if you mail me money. I'm currently. It's 555 North Pole Avenue. I'm currently working in the workshop right now because I'm one of Santa's fucking elves. So you're gonna have to send it there. So I work there on the weekends, and then I play the game during the weekdays.
Fair enough. Yeah, he's probably busy at this time of year too.
Hell yeah.
Santa's getting ready.
Yeah, I make your minis.
Yeah, he casts all your minis.
Yep, I paint them too.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. If you made it this far, please be sure to comment, like this, like our podcast, follow the channel. Any traction helps. We're being pretty consistent with viewers, which is not something we're too concerned about, but viewers are cool. And if you like this and you share it with one of your friends, that just means we get to have better equipment and keep the podcast going. So with that being said, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, fuck yeah, we're out. Peace.